Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wired for Success podcast. So, today we are talking about parental limits. There's so much to talk about parental limit, and as you know already, we might not be able to tell you everything in this one episode. However, we really want to bring this subject because it could bring another perspective for yourself or for your team. Therefore, today we are talking about this. So let me just quickly give you a snippet of my day yesterday, and you'll understand where how this can play in our lives. So yesterday, my one of my son is been admitted in hospital. He had an operation, so therefore I've spent most of the day at the hospital. I had some work to do. I had much to do, but obviously, Wi-Fi in a hospital it's really hard and difficult to get good Wi-Fi. So I had some level of frustration that was mounting throughout the day. Finally, my son gets into the operation block. He's supposed to be there for 2 hours, but for 3 hours and a half, I haven't got any news of him from the surgeon or from the nurses, no news. So I'm thinking everything is okay. I'm keep reassuring myself. In the meantime, my second son calls me and tells me he's coming to join me at the hospitals because he wants to see his brother. So I'm like, fine. And I wait for him at the bus stop. As I wait for him at the bus stop, he comes in, and the first thing he says to me is, why is there so many people at the station? Now, if you've been to London, or if you know London, you will know that London Bridge is one of the main stations in London. And there in rush hour, you see everyone coming from every space and going everywhere, and people are rushing, as the name of rush hour. People are rushing, going everywhere. So my son is overwhelmed. So he says, "Mom, I'm overwhelmed. There's so many people here. Why is there so many people?" And he keeps on prompting me, why are they coming here in London Bridge? Why this? And as he's talking to me, my mind is not there. The capacity to answer to these questions is not there. And my patience is wore thin already for the whole day I've spent at the hospital, where there was problem for me to do my work. I don't have any news of my other son who is gone into the operating block. Then we're rushing back to the hospital where I feel like, oh, I need to go and use the toilet. All of these things are happening. And really and truly, I had to just say, please, I don't have the capacity to answer these questions right now. I won't be able to talk to you. And he said, okay, mom. And he kind of like laughed a little bit, but it just let it go. So I rush back into the hospital. He sits down, and then I come out of the toilet and I go like, right. So the reason why there are so many people in London Bridge is, and I go through all this. So do you understand what I'm talking about here when I'm talking about my own parental limits, where I did not have the capacity to answer my son or to even entertain the conversation and carry on the conversation? So this is what we are expanding on today, not this specific episode, but the fact that as parents, we also have our limits when we are dealing with things. And teenagers also have their own limits too. So this is my colleague Steve Costello and myself, Patience Modevi, and today we're talking about parental limits.
Hello, everybody. I think that's a really cool story. It highlights so many things. Incidentally, when Patience told me that story offline a little while ago, I recognized a story of my own from when I was around 12 years old, where I developed this kind of kind of a fear of being in big crowds. So my mum used to take me shopping with her on a Saturday afternoon in our local town, quite a busy town. And I really didn't like it. It wasn't the shopping, but she misunderstood. She thought I didn't want to go with her to help with the shopping. Well, what I didn't want to do was go into that town surrounded by hundreds, it felt like millions of people. It probably was nowhere near. And I had this kind of resistance to being in that crowd, which I don't have anymore, but it was a temporary thing. But she didn't understand that. And sometimes we just have to sit back and hear what's going on. What is it? What happens when Patience's son got off the bus? And all those people, I could empathize with that. I felt it when she told me the story. So it's quite interesting. We all have things going on, and we've got to stop and recognize that sometimes. The problem is we're busy doing this and we're busy doing that, and we're busy running here and catching that. And by the time we've done all of those things, when something comes in from teenage son or daughter, it gets washed up in the mix, and it becomes difficult to work it all out. So we need to think about those things. How can we recognize what's going on in those worlds, in our world, in their worlds? How can we make space so that everybody's needs are met? Sometimes we might not want to meet those needs, though, because the behaviors might not be appropriate. So that's another story altogether. So there's an awful lot to consider. So Patience wasn't showing some weakness yesterday when her son got off the bus. She was showing, I've been busy all day. I've been trying to work all day. I've been trying to do this, do that. I'm worried about the son who's in the hospital, who's having an operation. And guess what? I need to go to the toilet as well. Put all of that together, and you've got this big ball of, like I like to call it, a big ball of spring, and it's tangled, and you've got to try and untangle all this stuff. So it's complicated. We've all got emotional and psychological limits as well for various reasons, not because we're broken, not because we need therapy. When I use the word psychological, people often think, oh, here we go, as a therapist, he's pointing at therapy, but it's not always true. We all of us have various emotional and psychological limits. They come with us through life. We pick them up along the way. All kinds of things happen. Little events happen, like the operation yesterday is an event that has an emotional and a psychological effect. It's hardly surprising. And time and energy is another one. We don't have the time right now. I'm busy. I need to get to the bathroom. Hurry, let's just move along. Well, I'll come back to your question later. I don't have the energy for it right now. We don't have the time for it right now. But the important thing is that everybody understands where we are. So what typically happens, at least in my experience and from listening to my clients, is that they'll say, I don't have time for that right now, move on. Rather than, hang on a minute, I don't have time for this right now because this is happening. Let's come back to it. So we're changing the pace of the situation completely. We're turning it around, and we've got to think, can we do those things? This is one of the things that Patience and I can help with. There are a lot of tools, simple, easy to apply tools that can be put into place to help with situations like that, to help us work them out. Because, of course, one of the things with teens is that they can seem so selfish, but they're not really selfish, not at all. What they're doing is trying to learn, they're trying to understand, they're trying to fit stuff in. And there's so much stuff being pushed into their minds, that it's hard work to make space and room for it all at once, so they've got to take their time as well. So we need to think about a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. I'm putting it in the simplest terms I can possibly think of right now. So we're not failures when things seem to go awry or wrong or whatever. We just need to be aware that there might be a different way we could do this. So what different ways can you think of, Patience? What comes up for you when you think about that?
I think before I jump into this, I think it's really good for people to understand that, for example, you have mindfulness, and you have so many tools and technique that obviously we can show you, but you have learned maybe over the years. And sometimes when you in that midst of that little bubble where the limits are blurred, all of this can just go away, you know? And what can come is frustration, anger, other things, and that can make whatever situation spiral out of control even more. So one of the I mean one of the best steps, as Steve I'm sure will say as well, is to pause, you know. If you can allow yourself to pause, or if you can teach even your teenager to know how to pause, first it will quickly give a reset to, okay, where am I, or what's happening right now? I'm going to give an example that is completely out of this, but when I was younger, like in my 20s, I went for an interview, and it was quite a few of us in the job going for that interview. So we were all talking. And I remember I didn't get the job, by the way, but I remember that I kept on talking and talking throughout the interview, and they were asking me questions. So I think they were prompting me to the answers they wanted, but I was kept on going in and out other thing because I was so stressed that any relevance I could have brought at that time, it went out the window. The stress took over. But one of the other applicants, the same thing happened. And when that happened, she said, "Oh, don't stop a minute." And she had the time to pause, which gave her time to rethink what it is they were asking and then respond clearly. So it's two total different experiences here. But just the simple thing of pausing can help you to reassess what is it you need to do in the next step.
Yeah.
Simply.
I think that's a great example. Reacting, excuse me, reacting is probably one of the biggest things that happens. So the team doesn't want this, they want that. Parents under stress. What happens when you're under a lot of stress, stress at
Mhm.
work, stress at home, stress here and there and everywhere? We tend to react
Yeah.
to stress. So team doesn't want to do what the parent thinks they need to do. So the parent has a reaction. Boom. What happens when there's a boom? There's conflict. What happens when there's conflict? Potentially, team walks away, slams door,
Mhm.
for example. And as patients said, when something happens, one of the most powerful things we can do is to stop, to take a breath. My controlling breaths take about 9 seconds. So I take that controlling breath. It's in through the nose for about 3 seconds, hold for about 3 seconds, breathe out gently through the mouth for about three, and then respond. So I'm not going to burst as though I hadn't done that.
Mm.
So I'm not going to react. I'm going to respond. And that breath sounds simple, but it actually enables a response, like the person you spoke about a moment ago, patients at the interview. Hang on a minute, let me think about that. That is a powerful, powerful way of stopping a reaction and turning it into a response. So if we can all learn how to do that, life actually does become somewhat easier, which is interesting. Now, there's a lot of research evidence behind all of this as well. So if anybody's interested, drop us a comment, leave a message. You want to know where the research comes from, I'll be happy to share that. No problem. We don't share it as a matter of course because you'd end up with a load of research links in the description of the video or the podcast, and that's not going to be helpful. Okay.
And another thing as well that people need to take in consideration. I think as parents, um, obviously you have to take the role of the leader. Often you have to take the role of the leader, and it's difficult to lead if there are things happening that are overwhelming for you. So how do you keep going on? And this is not, I'm not going to give you an answer here. I'm asking you questions. How? So recently, a good friend of mine passed away. Um, she left children behind, and the sister who I'm close to has now to support her nephew and niece, but she's also dealing with grief. And these are, I mean, you would think this is a random story. It is not. It is part of life. And Steve, I think you shared also another person who their partner passed away,
Mm.
and they have to now deal with things which are normal life things. However, they still have to grieve this person. And when you grieve, you are not grieving in just one way. You're grieving in every way. Oh, I'm gonna make pasta tonight. Oh well, but that's the way this person used to do pasta. Oh, I didn't know that. So that's again a reminder of, oh, this situation is happening. So all of these things, not that I wanted to go into too deep to such a deep subject as grief, but all of those things are things that we need to take in consideration. And I think we need to practice more kindness towards ourselves as parents and self-compassion.
I think that is exactly it. That's a huge point because being a parent is absolutely not about having all the answers. It really isn't. But as a parent, we need to be open. We need to be open to learning how to manage, react, and respond, for example. We need to be open to learning about what our teams are going through, what's happening in school, and all that stuff, the rest of their lives as well. We need to be open to adapting. Our values might not match the values that are kind of floating around our team's life. So we need to learn how to adapt a little bit if necessary. And we need to grow alongside our team as well. So we're learning together in a way, share the journey. We are the parents of teens. We shouldn't be pushing them out on a journey all alone. We need to share that journey with them some of the time. Okay, they don't want us there all of the time. That's not cool. Certainly, if I said to my daughter, I'm going to hold your hand and walk with you, I can imagine what she would say, and I'm not going to say it live. But some of the time, she sure wants me to hold her hand and talk things through or whatever she needs. So we need to be open to a number of different things. And we need to remember that. One of the big messages that I would share is that what we're not about is conflict, because conflict is never, or it can result in positives, but it's very difficult. It causes
Yeah,
all kinds of challenges and all kinds of problems. So we need to look for collaboration
yeah.
more than we need to look for conflict. And again, patience and I can help with that for sure.
Definitely. We would like you to come and join us in our group. It is a group that is dedicated to parents. So this is not a group for teenagers to join. It's only for parents. You have issues with how to communicate with your teens. There is emotional or psychological challenges that you're facing as a parent. There is anything to do with even your wellness and your well-being as a parent, because that's something that often gets thrown out the window as well. Um, Anything like this, we will be able to support you and give you strategies, tools, so that you can keep on going on. And if you want to do deeper work, which is really what we are here for, if you want to have one-to-ones, if you are going through, or even if you want help for your family, sometimes it's not just about being a parent, but it's having help to be able to have the right tools for your family. then we are here for that and we can support you. So don't hesitate to contact us. You have got all the contact details in the descriptions, in our bios as well. And also, we are here on the podcast every week. So just send us some DM and we'll contact you.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Do get in touch. We'll speak to you again really soon.
Thank you.